Well, hello there. This is Daniel from Three River Farmers Alliance. I am here with Matt from Redbeard's Kitchen.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good, you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm very excited to talk about your amazing soups and things.
Nice, nice. So, yeah, we make frozen, ready-made meals and soups. We do some local catering. So, just trying to keep ourselves busy.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, my first softball question is always to introduce yourself and describe your role at your organization.
my role, that's a
But
good.
you're the guy, right?
Yeah. So, my name's Matt Provencher. I'm the chef owner of Redbeard's Kitchen. I do everything from making the soup to doing the dishes and distribution. So, you'll see me out there, out to you guys on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays, I'm usually running around to all the other farms. We deal with 10 farm stands right now, kind of all in southern New Hampshire. So we'll be out delivering to them on Tuesdays. Um, we cook a few days a week. My wife does come in and help portioning and whatever she wants to make. So, but it's definitely it's a family run business. I joke in the beginning we had our daughters helping us put labels on everything.
Right.
I had a farmer complain that one of the labels was a little crooked. I said, you know what? My 8-year-old did it. So I'm happy it's not on upside down.
Right.
So it's a start. So
Right. So it's a real homegrown family
yeah,
business.
yes.
Um, yeah. I mean, what do you consider your mission or your purpose as a business?
So we kind of started this, after seeing what COVID did to the restaurant industry. It started off the kitchen I was running at the time. We slowed down. The idea kind of came up. What if we start doing something like this? Making some frozen soups, marketing and selling it, and it didn't work at the time. So when I ended up leaving, my wife and I were sitting there one day. She goes, "Why don't we try this? Why don't we see what will happen?" So we started. We found a ghost kitchen. We're technically a ghost kitchen, so we found this kitchen to work out of, and we started. We started making some soups and some chowders, and talking to some farm stands, and they kind of took us in. Well, I'll buy 5 chowder from you and whatever, and it just kind of grew and grew, and to different ideas. We started doing shepherd's pie, and then we started doing lasagnas and stuffed peppers, and it just kind of grew from there. So that was kind of the goal, and we're doing this, trying to find a home kitchen to work out of, because as much as I love doing this, I want to be back in the restaurant industry, like in the full blown industry.
Right. So by ghost kitchen, do you mean that's a space that you rent?
Yeah. Yeah. So the kitchen we're working out of is closed. So they closed because of COVID and they didn't want to reopen it. So we asked them, hey, can we borrow it? And it's a good way to start. The equipment was already there. The pots and pans were already there. Everything we needed was there. So it was like, okay, can we just start? And this kind of gave us the jump start to get everything going.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, great use of the space for sure.
Yeah.
So how did you? I guess I normally ask people how they got here. I guess we kind of covered part of that. But what I suppose got you into being a chef in general, creating food?
So I started when I was 15 in a fish market. They did fried fish and fresh seafood, and I started there and I loved it. So I was going to school. I ended up going to the vocational high school here in Manchester, which has a culinary program, and I went through that. And it's like I love this industry. I had so much fun in it. I joke, and my mom always hated when I say this. I started cooking because of her pork chops. When I tried to properly cook pork chop for the first time, I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, I've actually met a lot of people who feel that way. I didn't. I was a vegetarian for something like 7 years, like right after I left my parents' house and got out of high school, and I didn't think I was really missing anything when I started having meat that from a restaurant or that was actually prepared properly. Yeah, not my dad's destroyed burgers or
Yeah.
dry pork chops. It made a big difference.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I started there and went into fine dining and went off to culinary school for college and and I've cooked in Boston and Nantucket, and we spent some time in Dallas, Texas, and then I came back home. So
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it sounds like you have quite a passion for it. I suppose that's, I mean, as someone who has worked in the restaurant industry myself, I know that's very important. You really,
yeah,
it's a job that you really have to want to do because it is not easy,
no.
but it can be creatively very rewarding, I suppose, especially when you get to use all these unique ingredients.
And that's something at this point in my career I love. I love meeting the farmers and finding ingredients and seeing what they're growing and even if the guys raising pigs or different cattle or just seeing all this different product. Going to a farm and they say, hey, we grew 3 plants of this. And it's like, okay, cool. Give me 5 of them because I want to try cooking this different pepper or this weird tomato I've never seen. Or
Yeah.
it's like at this point, it's fun to see that stuff.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely it's nice to see all the different varieties that you wouldn't see on every store shelf normally.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So, what is your all-time favorite experience with the kitchen so far?
Oh,
I usually either get a very funny or sad story out of this.
I don't think there's a favorite part of the kitchen. Like I love when a kitchen's running perfectly. Like I've been in kitchens where I've just had a blast. Like the cooks are a lot of fun, and I don't know if I could narrow it down to one moment.
That's
You know,
okay. I mean,
it's kind of weird.
I'll accept kitchen perfection
Like
as
when a kitchen's running perfectly and there's nothing going wrong, like that's a beautiful thing.
yeah, that's true.
So
That is not that's not always easy to do.
yeah, yeah. There's that's a hard one. That's just especially doing it for 25 years. There's been so many different moments.
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned to you earlier that I grew up playing music, and I feel like having also worked in the food industry, there's something really similar about it. You know, if you have 5 people working on a line making all this food, it's this you're kind of working in flow, and you're all kind of trading and sharing, and it's this process of creating that you're
Yeah.
doing together. I would say that working in a kitchen is a very creative, collaborative experience, probably more so than most people
Oh,
would would
definitely.
think. So I mean, I really do compare it to playing music. It's a live music experience almost, as far as how fulfilling it can be, provided it's going well.
Yeah. And I've always loved. I ran one kitchen. It was a very small kitchen where the cooks were all involved. So every Saturday night when we finished service, we took out the menu, crossed off what we didn't want anymore, and it was like, okay, what do you guys want to do? What do you guys want to do next week? And it was from the lowly salad cook to me. It was like, okay, I don't like this dish, I don't like this item, and we would just, that's how we would do the menu every week.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of my favorite, like to have all these guys involved.
Yeah.
To the high schooler who's like, I want to use raspberries in February, and we don't look and be like, no.
Right.
Until next week, you can tell me why we said no. So
Yeah, there's a lot of learning going on in that environment, I suppose.
yes, yes. So
That's awesome. Well, how does Three River Farmers Alliance contribute to what you do? How would you? What's the relationship like?
uh, it's great. So the big thing for me is distribution. You guys have helped me get from the Manchester area. I tell people now, that you guys get us from Bedford to the seacoast, and is it Elliott, Maine to Cambridge, Mass, or something like that.
Sounds about right.
And it's that's been the big thing. Helping me distribute, helping me kind of work out all the kinks that I need to figure out. Like they've been great with. We came in with our original labels, and they're like, no, like you need to put this on the label. You need to say, made in a facility that make it contain nuts, and
Right.
Is it gluten free or is it not gluten free? Like, you need to have all of this stuff on the label. So like that was great. Like they've been great with just the basics for me.
That's really neat. I mean, that is a very large part of our mission is to get local farmers and local producers to a larger market.
Yeah.
So that's a big goal
Yeah. I
for
know like
us.
the first time we saw, I think it was Cambridge on the pick sheet, we were like, that's awesome. Like I never thought we'd be going that far.
Yeah, and all the Redbeard items get and they get rave reviews. So
Yeah.
it's been a hot item, we should say. um, so what are your goals for the future? Do you have any big plans you're working on, or is it just kind of business as usual moving
Um,
forward?
we're working on trying to open a restaurant, trying to get to the point where we have a full-fledged restaurant,
That's awesome.
and we want to keep doing what we're doing. The with COVID hitting, it showed how weak this industry, how weak the restaurant industry was.
Right, that was hard.
We kind of looked at it and we were like, if this happens again or something else happens again, we need multiple ways to do this. So we looked at it as, okay, we want to keep doing the frozen food, because people still want to eat. They still want to eat good food and they don't mind paying for it. But, they don't want to go out. They don't want to risk whatever. So we said, let's keep doing this. Let's find a restaurant, so we can still do takeout food. We can still, have a regular restaurant. And then we also do catering and little pop-ups and whatever else we can do. So it's kind of the goal is to not be stuck in any one way.
Right. I mean, that's a great idea to be diversified in that way. I mean, again, that was part of what was the big driving force for Three River Farmers Alliance to start Veggie Go, was
Yeah.
that with all the farmers markets closed, we can put them online now, and that kind of turned into its own business.
I remember sitting in on some of the phone calls for that when they had all the chefs in the beginning, and they're like, "This is what we're thinking about doing." And we're all like, "Okay." Like we would have never thought of that, and listening to some of the chefs who kind of started doing the meal kits,
Yeah.
So it was interesting to hear some of those phone calls in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, that's before my time, but I mean, just seeing how it all came together,
Yeah.
I think that it was a wonderful reaction to such a hard situation. I myself worked at a restaurant at the time, and suddenly didn't have a job when we weren't open anymore. So yeah, everybody has to kind of figure out what's important to them and how they want to move on. And I'm super happy to be finding this job and to
Yeah.
be able to talk to people like yourself. Um, and obviously, Three River is very excited about having all the Redbeard items. It's been a big, like I said, it's been a hot topic.
Nice. So,
Awesome.
but
Well, thank you so much for joining me.
yes, of course. So.
And you can find all the Redbeard's Kitchen items on Three River Farmers Alliance Veggie Go. Thanks.